Thanks for joining MBFA Chinwag podcast, where we will take you along our journey as a couple of dog trainers. We live here in the beautiful northern rivers of New South Wales on a 72-acre property, and life here on the farm is full of stories. We hope that our stories can provide you with clarity and guidance with what it truly means to live with dogs. Now here are your two hosts, John with his ADHD Spanish flair, and Sam with her autistic outlook on life. Buckle up and get ready for the circus.
Hi, everyone. This is our second episode now, and we're still fumbling our way through this. The other thing that you guys might notice, and I guess I'll just like say it out loud, our studio, which is just our lounge room, our fucking dining table is situated right next to like this mammoth bird aviary that's got like, I don't know, 14 finches.
Yeah, 14 zebra finches. So they like to join us and put their two bobs into the podcast as well. So enjoy that.
Yeah. We often, like, whenever we start talking, the finches start chirping, and then like our dogs start rolling around on their backs in the background, and they'll growl and carry on. So this is pretty much as real as you might get from our perspective, where we're not cooked up away in like an actual studio where it's like soundproofed and whatnot. We are right in the middle of it all with all of our dogs. So today it's actually a really rainy day outside. So we've made a fire. The dogs they've been sleeping for a little while, actually.
They have. They've had a good sleep this morning. We had pretty hectic storms actually this morning, which I think kind of made everybody feel a little bit tired as well, getting through that. But yeah.
This would actually be with us anyway. I'm not sure what it was like for Paco, if like Paco with the breeder. But this is Paco's first time in a storm that had cracking thunder. And he held it together beautifully.
Yeah, he spent most of the time playing with a lemon and barking at it, to be honest. So that pretty much sums up his care about the storm, which is great.
So
really good.
Maybe a little spruik for our who we got Paco from, our breeder, Nikki. She's obviously done a very good job with desensitizing sounds and whatnot. So
Nikki at Von Rook Working Line German Shepherds, just to be clear, but we are going to do a full episode on the incredible work that they do and the foundations that they lay for every pup that they raise. So we'll talk about that in depth in another episode.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely a good job from them in the sense of the noise desensitization stuff.
Yeah, Paco didn't care.
No, he didn't.
Like, he genuinely just did not care. I think like the only thing that I saw him do was like prick up an ear and was like, oh, where did that come from? But it wasn't like, you know, there was no nervousness around it. There was no insecurity, anxiousness around it. Like there was like zero fretting from.
It was sort of like, hey, what was that? And then 2 seconds later, back to pouncing on the lemon. So,
so today's episode, we wanted to touch on like quite early, with like essentially what our origin story is and who we are as John and Sam and owners of MBFA, where we've come from, and you know what our journey has looked like till today and what we do today as well. So I think, like, I guess I'll ask you the question. I think it's important, like, for whoever's listening to this to get a bit more of an in-depth understanding of who we are. I mean, we kind of explain this to some of our clients in consultation, like how important it is to actually know who your dog trainers are and who you're meeting, like what is their level of understanding of dogs and what's their experiences. And I always think like a nice place to start for anybody who is actually trying to get to know who we are is like, where did we come from?
Yeah.
With like our upbringing, with like being surrounded with dogs and whatnot. So, I guess for you, Sam, you know, where did you start out with dogs? Like, what was the thing that like as a young kid, you probably were just going about your life, but now as an adult, reflecting back, like where did it all begin with dogs?
I actually don't remember a time where I wasn't in awe and obsessed with dogs. Fun fact, one of my first sentences as a 2-year-old kid was actually, I would walk around and tell everybody in my 2-year-old child broken English, "He lick you." And I was referring to the family cattle dog that would go around and give everybody lots of licks. So apparently I felt the need to tell everybody when they arrived at the house that that's what was going to happen. Um, Without going sort of too deep into it, I came from a very violent household, a very unstable household, and just not a very nice environment for anyone to be in, let alone a developing kid, especially from such a young age. So I guess my escape from that was to always go and hang out with my dogs. So essentially, I didn't have much guidance from the parent or human perspective as a kid. So I got a lot of that guidance from dogs. So I'd find myself in the dog kennels with the dogs. I'd sleep with the dogs. Essentially, they very, very quickly became my family and the the beings that were essentially teaching me about the world.
And like at like your earliest memories with your dog was like, from my understanding, it was like 2 years old or something.
Yeah, one of my earliest memories was with my dad's Irish setter, Scoob. So Scoob and I were a year apart. So I was 2, Scoob was 1, and I used to sleep with him a lot. And I remember as a 2-year-old child, obviously not knowing better, I was poking Scoob on the foot, sort of just tapping his foot. And I remember he he gently put his mouth like around my hand and just held it and just looked at me as if to say, "That's annoying, stop doing it." And I remember just going, "Oh yeah, no, that makes total sense. Sorry, man." And then like that's one of my first memories as a kid where we just had this moment of him guiding me through that. And obviously that could have turned out very, very differently. So I'm very blessed that, it obviously panned out well. But that was one of my earliest memories of me figuring out as a child that, oh, holy crap, I can actually communicate with these guys and I understand what they're telling me. So yeah, I think, yeah, that's probably one of my earliest memories as far as dogs go. And then I was just obsessed with dogs from, well, since forever. Yeah. And same with dingoes.
And so your earliest memory was like Scooby or Scoobs?
Scooby.
Was
Scooby.
it Scooby?
Yeah.
An Irish setter.
An Irish setter, yes.
And then your next dog after that?
So we had a blend of cattle dogs and Irish setters growing up. So when I was a child, we had Patch, who was a cattle dog, and we had Scooby, who was an Irish setter. And then the next lot of dogs that came through sort of as I was a teenager was Smitty, who was a Smithfield cattle dog. And then I ended up getting my own Irish setter when I was in year 8. So it was about 14. And his name was Alfred. Yeah.
I love knowing dogs' names. Like it's one of those things that I really enjoy when people tell me what their dog's name and where
Yeah,
they came
I agree
from.
with that. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, I had again a cattle dog and an Irish setter um through my teenage years and into my early adulthood.
So this was all
So
before the age of like 14, 15.
yeah, so by the age of 15, I'd sort of experienced two cattle dogs and 2 Irish setters
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah, okay. And you spent so I mean, it sounds like you spent a lot of like your downtime or spare time with your dogs, doing stuff with your dogs.
Yeah, it was me, my little sister Kel, and our dogs
Yeah.
hanging out, doing things. Like the dogs were with us 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Whatever we were doing, whether we were building a cubby house or, left home alone to sort of fend for ourselves, our dogs were always our
It's almost like they're your guardians.
Absolutely, they were. Absolutely, they were.
They weren't just pets, were they?
No, they weren't just pets. They were definitely protectors as well. Can I stop talking for a little moment and ask you a few questions about your upbringing? What's your earliest memory of your dogs as a child?
Ah, geez. My earliest memories. So I like for me, I had a bit of a different upbringing than that. So my household was, my background is South American, so we had plenty of people around our homes. We had a full house constantly. So if it wasn't just our 5-member immediate family, it was like who my brothers had, like, were much older. They had their partner's family, cousins and aunties. Like, the house at any one moment had a minimum of 5 people. Um, but having so many people around, like, for me, my upbringing, I didn't have the need to go and like look for friends, and I kind of, in a roundabout way, had a pretty strict um, parenting, in the sense of my parents didn't allow for me to go and just hang out with friends on the weekend or after school. It was like go to school and straight back home. Um, and because there was such an age gap between me and the rest of my family, because I was the baby of the family, I just naturally just gravitated to the dogs.
Mm.
And the dogs, kind of, because they were always there, um, outside where I would play soccer, it would be like me and the dogs playing soccer. So our first 2 dogs, like, we had a dog actually called Geronimo, or in English called Geronimo. In Spanish, it's Geronimo, which basically, like, so we had him for a little while, but then we passed. Like, my memories from him, like, I've actually only got one. I got one photo with him where I'm actually kind of like dragging him by the chest, which is a terrible photo when I look back at it. But he was a very sweet boy.
What kind of dog was he?
He was a pit bull cross.
Yeah.
And we passed him to our cousin, who my cousin ended up like looking after him. But our first 2 main dogs that really, you know, were part of the family was these 2 pitties, brother and sister. They were called Mono, which means monkey, and Luna, which means moon in Spanish. They were, now, something that, I guess, the only thing with my, origin story, where I come from, my upbringing with dogs specifically, I was reared up in a space where dog fighting was quite predominant. It was like something that happened, it
So it's something you were subject to from a very
yes,
young
yeah,
age.
that's a perfect way of explaining it. So my brother was involved in dog fighting, not something that I am, obviously, what's the word? Um, I don't know, proud is not the right word, but essentially, like, I'm grateful for having that experience and what I observed and what I learned at a very, very young age. But it's still something that, like, I definitely don't advocate for. In fact, I've done a lot of advocating against dog fighting and the mistreatment of dogs. But for me, my upbringing was dog fighting. So I learnt a lot about big, powerful dog breeds, and in this case, pit bulls. So our first 2 dogs were pit bulls. And the funniest thing is that, going back to what you asked me before, is what's my earliest memories is, we had 2 dog fighting pitties in our backyard that, like, they absolutely loved and adored me. Like, I didn't have friends. I didn't have friends. I only had family, and that was it. And part of that family was like my dogs, and my dogs were always there. So, if it wasn't my dad that went out working, or my brothers that were out hanging out because they were teenagers while I was a child, my dogs were always there. And, I like, Mum used to wake up in the mornings and find me sleeping in the dog kennels.
That was the same for me.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I like, we've talked about this in the past, where, like, I had just as many fleas as the dogs.
Yeah.
Like, I was an absolute feral. I was rolling around in the mud with the dogs.
Yeah.
And I had a very interesting like upbringing in that sense, because the thing that I was so closely connected to were dogs, and I learned a lot of my life lessons
Yeah.
with dogs. I used to, crawl around on all fours and bite the dogs, and they would bite me back in a very playful way,
Mm.
never to hurt each other. And these were dog fighting dogs.
Mm.
And I just don't think that like a lot of the general public would understand that like these dogs were so beautiful,
Mm.
but in another picture they were savages. But with me, they just absolutely like we used to have our siestas in the afternoon. I used to come back from school at 3 p.m., 3:30 by the time I got home, and I'd have my siesta out on the concrete slab
With the
outside with
dog.
the dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, my earliest memories with dogs were, rolling around in the grass and dirt. I still remember, like I used to crawl under the house
Yeah,
and
I did
just and
too.
sleep in like dirt
Yeah.
dirt holes that the dogs had made under the house,
Yeah,
and
I
used to
did too.
sleep in there.
Yeah.
Did you do that
I
too?
did too. Yeah, I did.
I used to come back like get out of there like filthy.
Mm.
I That's probably why I've got a really good immune system.
Probably. In retrospect, we were building our immune system too, so ticking all the boxes.
And I don't know, like from there on, we lost our boy, and we had Luna. Luna ended up going, and she actually ran away and fell pregnant and came back pregnant to the house I was now a teenager. Um, and we ended up keeping one of the pups from the litter, and her name was Macarena.
Mm.
And she was a very beautiful dog. She was such a sweet dog. She was obviously a mix, because Luna went gallivanting on the streets and got pregnant. But that was my first, like for me, that was my first dog that I actually genuinely looked after as a young kid. I think I would have been about, I don't know, at that stage, maybe about 10, 11, maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think it would have been about 10 or 11. And that pup from day dot was sleeping with me in the
Mm.
bed. So there's a few gross things that like that, because it was a little pup. The pup used to like piss and shit on my chest and in my bed because we were sleeping in the same bed. It was disgusting. But like that, those are like I had that puppy right from the get
Mm.
go. One thing that I forgot to mention is the mother actually died giving birth, which was really upsetting. But the one pup that survived was Macarena.
Right, which explains why she was sleeping on your chest
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
It's not like we took her away from her mum. Her mum
Yeah.
actually passed away
Oh, that's horrible.
at birth, or giving birth. From there, so Macarena ended up passing away, and then I ended up getting a dog called Coda, and Coda is like the legendary Coda. Any of my friends from down south in Wollongong, whenever I've mentioned Coda, they're like, "Oh my god, that dog was an absolute weapon." So he was a red nose cross blue nose, and he came out black, and he was absolutely like he looked like a panther. Like that's the best way that I can describe him. He was such a cool kid though. Looked tough, super lean, very muscular, very social. His best friends were ducks and chickens, and he used to lay on his back. And I remember I had a hand raised cockatiel, and the cockatiel used to clean his teeth. Um, so it was really interesting. Like now, as by the time I had Coda and got Coda, I would have been about 17, 18 years old or thereabouts. And um, I was in a different age group now. Like I wasn't a child with a dog. I was now a
Mm.
teenager with a dog. Um, and I was able to like start teaching my dog stuff. Like I don't know if did you teach your dog stuff very early on? Like I wasn't like teaching things. I was kind of just doing and living life with dogs as a very young age. But
Well, with my Irish setter Alfred, so he was my first proper dog, and that was, as I said, around 14-ish. He was with me all the way through to maybe 21 or something along those lines, or maybe a little bit younger. But I just did a lot of stuff with him that at the time I didn't realize was actually totally natural to him. So I'd like go down to the river and I'd be sort of paddling around in the canoe or on my boogie board, and he'd be flushing out ducks.
Yeah, okay.
So we'd do that kind of stuff together. We'd go on a heap of hikes together. I did accidentally win a couple of shows with him, which was complete accident, where we went to the Moolumbar show as a kid, and I had Alfie with me. And I think I remember saying to you that we just entered this show on spur of the moment, and I secretly had like half sausage roll in my pocket that I've saved. So
just randomly carry sausage rolls in your pocket.
So that my dog would follow me, and we we won a couple of awards, like complete, just, it was just the most random thing ever. But yeah, after him, I ended up getting my husky. So I would say that my husky was probably my first like real dog on my own. So I got my husky Shaddix when I think I was around 22, 23. And he taught me more than any other dog has that I've ever met.
Or was patience one of those things?
Patience was definitely one of those things. His sole existence was to push my buttons. But he was great. And then, yeah, I guess from there I started building a dog pack. I got my German Shepherd Pez a year after I got Sadix, so they were only a year apart. So those two boys were my pillars. They were very much so my rock, my foundation through my 20s into until last year when I lost Shaddix. So yeah, they were very key components in everything that I've done with dogs for the last like 10, 11, 12, 13 years, right through till, all of the dingo stuff that I've been doing. They were very much pivotal players in all of that. So yeah, as far as training goes with the husky, with Shaddix, I did a lot of again, accidentally doing stuff for him that he loved, but I wasn't really aware of it at the time. So doing like a heap of, he'd just tow me on things. He loved to pull, being a husky.
Yeah.
So he'd tow me on things, on my bike, on a skateboard, on whatever it might have been, on my roller skates. He'd just tow me around. I think it was the best thing ever. As he got a little bit older, I started doing some proper training with him when I started to sort of understand a bit more and realize that, oh, hey, like I can actually do some really cool stuff with my dogs.
Yeah.
Even though at the time, like with every dog that I've been with throughout my whole life, I've like accidentally been doing the thing without really being aware that I was doing the thing. And then like with Pez, my German Shepherd, I did a lot of stuff with him because he wasn't in a good way when he came to me. So a lot of work went into him around resource guarding. He had horrific resource guarding around food, and then that started to extend to me and spaces. So I had to do a lot of work with him and just giving him roles around the house.
Like job roles.
Job roles, yep. So that he was, working on stuff rather than worrying about the other crap that I didn't want him worrying about.
Yeah.
And then, with Pezzy, I accidentally developed him to track dingoes when he was about 4. That's when I started getting into the dingo rehab space, and he actually ended up being an incredible dog at helping find dingo pups that people had heard in the bush that weren't doing well, that had lost their parents. He would find them, and then we'd, if they were sick, we'd take them in and rehab them, and Shaddix and Pez would help me with that process as well. So, yeah, like kind of.
And then is that like kind of when you then started stepping into the more dingo space?
Yeah. So from there, like the dingo space, I've always been obsessed with dingoes. I had a heap of dingo figurines when I was like 3, and little stationary things. I don't know why. I just always loved them. And then I kind of accidentally fell into the dingo space. It wasn't intentional. But yeah, once Pez was around 4 and Shaddix would have been 5.
So your first 2 dogs were Shaddix and Pez, and then from there on your dingo pack grew.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there was a wolfhound cross bull Arab named Buff amongst the mix as well. That also was a rescue.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch base on like what I as far as like training goes with like your dog. So you had your first two real dogs, which
Mm.
was Shaddix and Pez.
Mm.
Um, like bouncing off from you in the training compartment, like I feel like I'm probably that in the same sort of similar situation where I didn't really do like training, but I did life with my dog.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And one of the things that once I had once I had Coda,
Mm.
who was like my Black Panther pity, who was boss. It was super important to me, especially off the back of having the type of childhood that I had with
Mm.
dogs. So coming from like the dog fighting space, it was super important to me that Coda being my first real dog
Mm.
as a young adult, that I still remember I used to go around telling people that like I'm going to prove the stigma wrong. And so for me, it was super important to make Coda look. It's so egotistical, but nonetheless, run with me, guys. Is that like I tried to make him look as scary as possible because I remember putting like a chain on him, a thick chain on him, but as social as possible as well.
Mm.
So it was like two totally contradictory sort of things that like he looked scary, but he was like the nicest dog in the neighborhood. Like if you saw him in our backyard, he'd be walking around with chickens on his backyard, on his back as he was walking around.
Yeah.
He would go like he helped me hand raise ducks,
Yeah.
and he would coddle them, and he would go up and
Nurture
fleece them, and
Yeah.
they would fleece him eventually, and he would round them up and be part of just like we just did life together.
Yeah.
And even when we went out into the world, he was like I only ever saw him get upset at one dog, which was a big Roddy that basically the in a roundabout way the Roddy instigated a situation, and he just didn't back down in that moment. But nonetheless, outside of that picture, he was super social. Like he loved people, got along really well with dogs, loved like animals that he was introduced to. I still remember I used to take him for a walk down the road where there was horses, and he would sniff their noses.
Yeah, that's what my two used to do.
And they'd like smooch. So
Yeah.
that became like a thing.
Mm.
He actually lived with goats as well. I
Yeah, my
remember.
guys did too.
And this is all in suburbia down in Wollongong. Like it wasn't like I lived on farmland. It was a small little block in the middle of the suburbs. And I had ducks and chickens and cockatiels and like you name the animal, and I pretty much had it in the backyard. And Coda was like that was the thing as far as like touching back on it, as far as like training goes, I didn't really do like the whole sit down stand sort of thing. I did the
Lifestyle stuff.
lifestyle that
Yeah.
like I need you to lean on me for guidance to be
Yeah.
able to show you like everything's going to be okay, and then at the same time is like to thrive in that space.
Mm.
So it wasn't like he was living a life suppressed, that he wasn't able to do things. In fact, he thrives by actually having his own like um what's it like a dynamic kind of like animal pack. And that I've never actually really thought of it like that. Like he had his own little um multicultural pack that he's
That he was leading.
yeah, that he was like head honcho of. So that growing up, I just don't remember teaching my dogs sitting and laying down and staying. They kind of just lived with me. And I think the thing there is because, you know, I mean, I'm 38 years old this year. When I first got like our first two dogs, I was 4 years old. So, 34 years ago, it was a totally different lifestyle to what like we're living now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, my dogs have always been right next to me, like 80-90% of the time, outside of like going out to going to school. And once I like was a teenager, like I'd take my dogs even to my friend's place. Like my dogs were just with me. So because they were with me side by side, spending so much time with me, I was able to mitigate and manage them and then guide them through like life. And I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's changed these days with like a lot of dog owners. A lot of dog owners, they don't have a lot of time with their dog to do life with their dog.
Yeah, 100%.
We're kind of jumping subjects here, but
Well,
like
we're
that's.
yeah.
I'm sure we'll unpack that at another time a bit more. But would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I think now, as far as dogs go, as you said, people don't have a lot of time with their dogs. They don't have a lot of time in general. They're not sort of walking side by side through life with their dogs. It's very kind of separate, as in, people will go about their business and do their thing, and then your dog has this own separate, I guess, component in your life where they get put in the backyard and they get taken out for 2 walks a day, and that's kind of the general picture
Yeah.
what we're seeing with just normal dog owners.
Yeah, I think like society as a whole has
It's just
changed.
changed,
Yeah,
that's right.
where people like just don't have a lot of time. And so the one time that they do have to give to their dogs is like this 45-minute walk around the block.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Which is
So
very, very different. It's
this-
a very different picture to what we've
Yeah,
had growing up.
Yeah, like and I'm sure that most likely a lot of our one listeners.
Maybe we've got 2 now.
Maybe we got 2 listeners now with the
Who knows?
second episode. They might resonate with that in the sense of, today people work a 9 to 5 jobs. It's both the parents. They don't have a lot of time. The only time that they have is probably to deliver it to their kids.
Mm.
Totally understandable. Totally, it. I get it. And so then basically the dog gets the dregs of what energy and effort and time that is left to
Yeah.
give them. And that's usually, again, like a 45-minute walk around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so most behavioral problems that exist today, like I just don't recall having these problems 34 years ago.
Oh, no, there weren't, because it was a different picture. It was
Totally
a
different
totally different lifestyle.
And again, I don't think just in general anyway, I think we kind of like fall into the 1%ers of like how we live with a dog as well. Us two personally. I don't know too many people that, fell asleep under a house in a dirt hole that had fleas in it and like thrived. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So I think definitely things have
I definitely
changed.
do. I remember getting picked on at school because I talked about my dog so much. I remember getting bullied because they're like, "Oh my God, like, are you just in love with your dog?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." What's your problem?
That was literally me, like
Yeah.
through primary school, high school, and all of like the other jobs that I've had in like as an adult. I was always the dog guy. I was always the guy that like, if anybody had an issue with their dog, and this is probably where like the dog training stuff kind of started to rise, is where I started to teach people. I started to teach like my friends of like what to do with their dogs when they go out into the world and how to manage them, is because I spent so much time with my dogs, and
you had an understanding of how they would.
Yeah, and like the only thing that I would ever talk about was my dogs.
Yeah, that was the same as me. Like, if you look at my year 6, like my final report for year 6, it was just like Sam smiles the most when she's talking about her dog or her rabbit. And then
I don't think anything's changed.
No, nothing's changed.
We still talk dogs now.
Nothing's changed. But I remember, like, in school, for me, I was a good student. I liked school. I liked primary school. I loved learning in general. I still do. But I remember one of the only arguments that I had with the principal in primary school was because I was doing a speech in year 5 called "That Dog Won't Bite." And part of my entire reasoning for doing that speech is because people used to think that my Irish setter was really aggressive because he was so big, when in reality he was just the most gentle giant in the entire world. And this was, Dad's Irish setter, Scooby. And my whole thing was for me to be able to bring him into the school so that he could accompany me with my speech. And I made sure he was bathed and brushed and his nails were done and his ears were clean. And I made sure that he had a matching ribbon around his neck that matched the ribbon in my hair. And then I got told I wasn't allowed to have him at school. Totally understand now. But as a 10-year-old kid, I was off it. I was not having it. I'm like, no, what do you mean? Like, he has to be there for my speech. And that was the only argument that I had with the principal, or any teacher for that matter. I was like going full out on, no, my dog's coming to school. I didn't win. And I I was very disgruntled as I delivered my speech without my dog beside me.
How old were you?
I was probably 10, 11.
In year 10.
No, 10 or 11.
Oh, yeah.
I was in year 5. My love, you need to turn your ears on. So this little kid just been like fucking full, like, no, I'm gonna bring my dog into school. Anyway,
from Coda, so that we can start to explain to the guys who are listening how we came about Man's Best Friend Australia. So from Coda, I got Zen. So Coda passed away actually right on his 6th birthday, which was...
Oh gosh, you lost him soon. I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah, it was really young.
Oh, that's
sad.
sad.
Yeah, he had a...
Yeah, the same thing Claire's had.
Yes, yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah. So he passed away right on his 6th birthday, and he was like anybody who's got a dog who they're very bonded to. He was actually my best mate, like genuinely my best mate, and I vowed to never get a dog again. And I spent days and weeks crying, and I thought I'm never going to do that again. Like this is so painful.
It's just soul crushing.
Yeah, never going to do it. Never going to do it. Never going to do it. Anyway, a few weeks went by, and then I just got the itch to start looking for another dog, and it was a pretty quick and easy decision to make. I contacted somebody who was selling Amstaffs, and came across, well, as you guys would know, whoever knows us, came across Zen as a young pup. He wasn't my first pick. Well, he was my first pick. Then I picked somebody else because it was being a bit of a dickhead in one visit, and I'm like, I'm not getting him. Came back for a second visit. I'm like, no, that's the dog for me. And funny enough, like a few years later after getting Zen, I thought I'd do the maths on like when was Zen born, because again I was just young. I just didn't like clock these things, and I did the maths, and Zen was actually born on the same day Coda died, which was a really weird sort of thing. I don't know if anybody who's listening believes in woohoo stuff. I do.
No, that's the universe giving you a sign.
Yeah,
that is what that is.
And I just remember again calculating that and just being blown out of, just knowing that I lost my dog, and then I regained the dog right on the exact same day. Anyway, so Man's Best Friend Australia came from Zen. I then vouched to do as much as I possibly can for the bully breed community. So I got the itch to want to do a very long walk with Zen. And so eventually Zen and we did a 846 kilometer walk from Mooloomba in the northern New South Wales in the Northern Rivers. And then we walked all the way back to Sydney, where I grew up. So that was 856 kilometers that we did with Zen. So Zen and I. So Zen was an incredibly fit young dog, and he nailed it. Like I just couldn't be happier with how well he did. He's 11 now, and he's still like stupidly fit. But Man's Best Friend Australia came from that. So I wanted to get the message out into the world and get a little bit of traction. So I created Man's Best Friend Australia, and wanted people to know what we were standing up for, which was we were standing up primarily against dog fighting in Australia. The second was puppy farming, and then the third was just animal cruelty in general. And got a fair bit of backlash. Surprisingly, a lot of people didn't like what I was doing, and it's just so ridiculous. But nonetheless, Man's Best Friend Australia came from that, and then I ended up having a female. I got a female called Raven. Raven and Zen had a litter of puppies, and I had the litter of puppies. I kept a couple from that litter. And then once I decided to move on to dog training because my life basically revolved around dogs. I went and, decided to do NDTF, so National Dog Trainers Federation, down in Sydney. So I got my green tick to be a dog trainer. The really interesting thing that I found about doing NDTF is that I didn't necessarily learn anything new. I just learned the language behind things. Like I learned about negative reinforcement, positive punishment, positive reinforcement.
Yeah. So essentially you were already
like
doing all of the things.
yeah,
You just learned the terminology.
yeah, and that's kind of like why I mentioned earlier that like I hadn't really done dog training, but I kind of was doing dog training. I was just doing life with a dog. And once I got the green tick, it basically just put the language to what I was doing already. From there, I became a dog trainer, basically. So I became a dog trainer through COVID. So decided to do all of the things NDTF through COVID. Started gaining a little bit of traction locally. I ended up becoming the most popular dog trainer in the local area. And then where you and I met was I had an issue with a dingo that was in one of my puppy school classes. And I'll retract that. It wasn't an actual issue. It was I knew somebody out in the doggy world who knew tons about dingoes, Sam, and I scouted her out. So essentially I bumped into Sam at where she used to work. And said, I really need your help. I've got a dingo, and essentially, I want to know as much as I possibly can through your help and your guidance. And we ended up collaborating, and then eventually got together. And now Sam is now 3 years maybe now officially in Man's Best Friend Australia. Yeah, and we now run Man's Best Friend Australia together. So the really interesting thing about our collaboration is that anybody who listened to the intro, I genuinely think I've got ADHD, and we know like Sam's got level 1 autism, and the combination of our two things has just like been an explosion of us being able to develop our programs so beautifully, especially in the puppy space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our puppy development program that we have today is like second to none. Like I'm so proud of.
Well, I think for both of us, it's one of our favorite things.
Yeah, but I'm just like so glad that like the universe, God brought us together via like I needed help with the dingo, and you were that person. And when we combined both of our knowledge, we developed a program that was like it's unmatched.
Yeah, it is unmatched. I think the funny bit, like the funny component to that, is that John worked at Best Friends Pets and ran the puppy school there.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, I ended up working at Best Friends Pets, and I also ran the puppy school there. And the funny thing about that is that both of us were getting in trouble from head office for changing the puppy school program that they wanted us to run because we could see problems with it.
Yeah.
And both of us were essentially in trouble a lot because we were teaching the dogs in front of us and we could see better ways to do things. But because it was a corporate space, that's frowned upon.
Yeah. Let's kind of like come full circle and all that, because if you think of like how we grew up with dogs, right? And if you think of like how the generic puppy school programs are run, I'll throw a number out there. I don't really know the statistics on it. Like there is no number on this, I'm sure, but I don't know of too many people who run puppy school programs or develop puppy school programs that have that, what's the word?
Lifestyle component to it.
Yeah, no, but it's like we were in the fucking dirt with the dogs.
You were in the trenches.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was saying before, like I had more fleas than the fucking dogs.
Yeah.
And I just like when we're talking about developing dogs, the most important thing is knowing what to do with a puppy at a very, very, very young age so we don't have all those behavioral problems. And I just like going back to where we did training and where we'll get into lots of trouble because we were readjusting the whole entire program to how like, no, this is how you live with a dog. Like you need to know how to live with a dog, not teaching a puppy how to sit in week one.
Yeah. That was the part. Like I'd have head office been like, so did you teach her down in lesson 3 today? And I'd be going, no, I didn't. And then I'd get in trouble.
Yeah, I used to. I actually got pulled into the office once upon a time. They were like, "Are you following the program?" I go,
Yeah.
I just lied through my teeth. I go, "Yeah," and they go, "Oh, so are you maybe teaching these things?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, no. So that bit I kind of left out."
Yeah, well, I used to get in trouble for this. I had to have a meeting with the head office in Melbourne because I wasn't teaching the correct things.
Yeah.
Each week. So anyway,
so
I don't have to worry about that now.
So that's a bit of our kind of our origin story and how we came to be Man's Best Friend Australia today. We've stumbled our way through like lots of things. We had a training facility once. We're mobile. Like we've bounced around a fair bit.
Learned a lot.
You learnt a lot along the way. I definitely think that the dog training flavor that we're seeing today, surprisingly, it's everything that we've done very early on. Like a very big component of how we train today is play, like through the flavor of playfulness and being playful. Yeah, that's all we did as kids.
That's right.
That's all we did as kids, and it gets lost along the way that that's not what dog training is about.
Yeah, well, like I mean, our slogan is your relationship with your dog is our biggest priority, and if you look at how we interacted with our dogs as young children, it was solely relationship, solely play.
Yeah,
it wasn't, hey Fido, do a sit.
Yeah,
none of that.
Yeah,
it was literally, hey, do you want to come have fun with me and do the thing?
Yeah.
And the dog's been like, hell yeah, like every time we step foot out the door together, something really cool happens.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I just remember, like, I don't know, but like I had dogs that probably didn't like dogs, but they were very well disciplined. And I think that's, I don't know, some dog trainers out there might argue with us, but whatever. To me, that's the difference between an obedient dog and a dog that is disciplined. Like a dog that has discipline, like chooses you every single time. I don't know. We'll unpack that another time, I think. We won't go too far into that.
No, I don't think we're going to be able to because we've currently got our puppy who's just woken up and he's already stolen one of my socks.
And bit your ankle.
And bit my ankle. I was very quiet. I didn't make a noise because we're recording. And now he's chewing on the bottom of the chair. So...
I think we've unpacked everything. I don't know if there's much more to say about where we've come from. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll keep you posted with some more episodes along the way, and bear with us as we also grow into this space of technology. I hate technology. I hate it, and somehow I've found myself making this my goal to overcome, to learn some technology stuff, e.g. make little podcasts like this, informative ones for you guys. Anyway, enjoy your day, guys. Love yous all.
Much love, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.